Good evening, Madam President.
Good evening.
Madam President, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are currently negotiating about Ukraine without the involvement of the EU and Ukraine itself. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that they have not really started negotiating. They are just talking about negotiating. And I think that the position that has been all along the position of Ukraine and of the Europeans, by the way, that such negotiations, of course, should involve in the first place Ukraine, remains the position. There cannot be a peace, a lasting peace, a just peace that is negotiated without the participation of the country that has been invaded more than 3 years ago, a country of which the territories have been occupied and which has been fighting to defend its independence and its sovereignty. And that's something that we Georgians understand very well, because before that, in 2008, Georgia has also had its share of Russian aggression, and Russian aggression can never be stopped and will repeat itself if there is not a peace that is long-lasting, and that can only be one that is based on the fact that Russia recognizes that it cannot occupy the territories of its neighbors once and for all.
You have warned for years that the Western response to Russia might be too weak. What should Europe have done differently?
In the case of Ukraine, I think it's very clear that supporting militarily Ukraine earlier on during this long battle would have helped Ukraine earlier on. But it's very important to see also that 3 years during which Russia has not been able to win that war means that it's not a success for Russia. So I don't think that the peace that will follow, the negotiation that will follow, can give Russia, or should give Russia, a victory that it has not won on the ground. On the side of Georgia, I think that we have never counted on any form of direct support or direct intervention. What we need is a moral support, is a political support to what has been, for as long as Georgia has been independent, 80% of its population has supported the European path, Euro-Atlantic integration, has, even despite the conflict in 2008 with Russia, has maintained this orientation and now cannot accept that because of stolen elections, because of a proxy government, Georgia is now taken back to the sphere of Russian domination, which it doesn't want, which it has never wanted. For 2 centuries, Georgia has been fighting against being under Russian domination. It's not today that it will accept it.
The US under Trump appears to be abandoning its role as a protector of democratic movements in Eastern Europe. What consequences does this have for countries like Georgia?
Well, first of all, I think that we don't really know the extent of these new policies, because they are still forming themselves. But in any case, if that were the case, I think that it means that Europe has to stand up to its role in general in the region as a power, as a foreign policy power, as the center around which gravitates the rest of Europe, of democratic Europe. And that means that it has to engage itself more. It has to be a really power and using instruments. And to this day, Europe doesn't have many instruments to support the democracies, especially when the democracies are challenged. Today in Georgia, foreign aid is very limited by the new Russian laws that have been imposed and that forbid foreign financing of civil society, of media that are now calling to their media organizations in Europe to support them because they are in a very difficult situation. So that is the role for Europe. And as usual, Europe grows through different crises. So it might be one of those crises which will finally give Europe its full-fledged power to play in its region. And it's very important for Georgia because Georgia is also the Black Sea, which has been one of the major centers of interest for the future of European infrastructure projects. Georgia is at the center of all these projects. So support to Georgia, support to Georgian democracy means supporting the future projects and future economic developments in that direction.
Viktor Orban is already openly supporting the new leadership in Georgia. How much does this damage the European unity in the question of Georgia?
Well, it damages to a certain point the unity, but it also opened the way for other governments to support the Georgian population in its quest for democracy. If Orban by himself can decide what he does, I guess that other governments can also take their decision and have their own policy and support the part of the country that is going towards more democracy, fighting for it, very resilient on the streets for 78 days now. And that is the future of Georgia. And I think that European countries individually, if not collectively, but I hope collectively also, will be on the side of Georgia and of Georgia's European future.